This next video is on the indigo. The indigos are the star seeds that were sent here by the Most High. Similar to the ones that the fallen angels that came down and decided to procreate with the women of the earth and created giants. Now, you're not going to hear that in the Bible. You're going to have to go to the book of Enoch of how they made a pact to come down to earth. They found a woman to be desirable, and they wanted to procreate with them. So when you read in the book, that Sunday book, about David and Goliath, those were the children from the fallen angels. The Most High has his way of balancing. And in 1985, you start seeing children, or children that we call with old souls. Children being born that have the knowledge of an adult, that have the hearts of peace and love, that are here to put their influence onto this earth to change it. So if you want to know if you have an indigo child or you're an indigo adult, I'm going to play you the 5 signs to find out if you are an indigo. There's meditation music for those that are indigos. And you can tell if yourself or if your child is an indigo and how to keep building their spirit.
Loud sounds can be too much.
But she still loves to make music.
Yeah.
Play band.
Early screening for autism can make a lifetime of difference. Find out more at screenforautism.org.
What's up, guys? My name is Victor, and I have this YouTube channel to help people who are going through the awakening process navigate their journey. And in this video, I'm going to give you 5 different ways to tell if you're an indigo. Now, an indigo, just right off the bat, is just a label that we put upon a certain character, a certain set of characteristics and personality of a particular type of soul. There's a lot of real higher conscious souls that are now on the planet to help humanity kind of wake up out of its slumber. And you know, because we're human beings and we have these logical reasoning minds, we like to place labels on these different types of souls. So there's indigo souls, there's crystals, there's rainbows, and they're all kind of different. But an indigo is quite a fun and fascinating and certainly a very much needed type of soul right now at this time, because they are system busters. They are rebels at heart, and they are here to change shit, to bust down stuff that is no longer working. But I'm going to give you 5 more specific characteristics of an indigo so you can know for yourself if you are in fact an indigo. And once you know, then you can kind of embrace your nature and do what you came here to do. Number 1 is they are rebellious. If you're not really rebellious at all, then you're not an indigo, straight up. Indigos are incredibly rebellious, hard, strong types of people. And they cannot conform to any sort of like societal norm, just for the sake of not wanting to conform. They might even like certain things. They're like, fuck that, I'm independent. I don't join anything. I march to the beat of my own drum. I don't join anything. I stand on my own 2 feet, and there's nothing you can do to change my mind. They have that kind of like hard-nosed, rebellious attitude. A lot of times growing up, they're into like, offensive music, wild clothing, and they get in trouble at school, and they're just always almost going out of their way to do the opposite of what people typically want them to do. Number 2, indigos are highly intelligent, very smart, cerebral people. They're really good at arguing. Oftentimes they love to read. They're very well read. They're very articulate, and they're just really good at expressing themselves, expressing their unique standpoints against, again, forces and norms and systems that oftentimes don't necessarily encourage their sometimes wildly unique perspectives on things, but they feel confident in themselves to kind of voice it with all of their spirit energy behind it, and as a result they just happen to be naturally drawn to learning and feeding their inner magician, making themselves very smart. So if you love to read, if you love to learn, and you're really good with your words, that is oftentimes a characteristic of an indigo, and for good reason. They need to be like that because it's not easy to go against the grain. You can't just be like shy and meek, and like you got to be impressive with your speech, sort of. 3, they're ridiculously, incredibly stubborn to their own detriment many times. Again, because their soul has such a fiery indigo type spirit that they want to go up against everything. Oftentimes there are things that are like suggested to them that are actually would be helpful to them, but they're like, you know what, no. They just have that stubbornness. My daughter is an indigo, and I'll tell you right now, she's 6 years old, and she acts like a freaking teenager. She is so impossible to get to do anything that we just let her do her thing. She's 6 years old. She insists that she wants to be a boy, so she dresses like a boy. She purposely wants to like not match her clothes. Anytime we suggest, again, just as all of what I just said, she's like, I should have her on camera one day so you can see. I can just ask her a few questions, and you'll be able to see it in her. Very stereotypical indigo. And I'm not saying I'm not suggesting that you don't be stubborn, because I don't know if you're an indigo, you might not be able to help it. Probably for the rest of your life. It's kind of one of your like your Achilles heel. Number 4 is indigos are always very spiritually connected. They're tuned in. They're very psychic. They're very empathic. They're very intuitive. They oftentimes are able to kind of sense their guides, and they have, astral traveling in their dreams and outer body experience. Not that you have to have those things, but they're just very spiritual. They see through the mere physical props in front of them. They see into it. They're very smart. They can tell if you're lying, like no one else. They're really awesome lawyers and good at arguing, as I mentioned. But they're just very spiritually tuned in whatever way works for them. I'm not saying they're religious. I'm not saying they're like a certified member of the New Age community. No, they don't like to join any of that shit. But they are spiritual beings, and they're connected, and they have assistance from their guides, whether they even know it or not, whether they even label it as their guides or not. They have like an entourage of spiritual forces surrounding them, helping them on their mission. Which brings me to number 5. They have a strong sense of purpose, a strong sense of being on a mission. And oftentimes what really troubles them is they don't know what that mission is. They don't know what they're supposed to do. They just know they're meant to do something. And they will dedicate their life to finding what that is. Once they do, then they're like, oh, they reach it's like a blissful content. It'll make them feel amazing. Their heart will finally get to relax, and then they can kind of go forth on their journey. But they grow up with this just strong sense of purpose, and because they have a strong purpose, right now, the whole idea is that oftentimes souls that never even used to come to the earth plane are all coming, because most of the people on earth, left to their own devices, they're gonna fuck it up. It's like Atlantis. They're gonna let this shit go to shit. The world's just they're gonna like self-implode themselves basically because of their unconsciousness. They're all creating their reality out of deep fear-based unconsciousness, and they need people to come in here and show them another way. And just by having enough people living and acting and doing things very contrary to what is like the egoic norm on the planet, the idea is that hopefully we're going to like get through with these people and allow them to finally kind of like start to like relax their ways a little bit and see the writing on the freaking walls, and what they're doing is just, it's madness.
That's pretty much an indigo. If you fall into those categories, you are an indigo. If you're more of a leader, if you're very stubborn, if you go against the core, if you're very attached to the universe, if you walk to the beat of your own drum, then and you're an empathist, and you know that you're here on earth, but you really don't know what your purpose is. Indigos usually are able to sense the spirit of a person very quickly. Sometimes they're very introverted because they are connected to the universe. They are spiritually connected. And again, the Most High brought them here to balance out man as he is now. If it's left up to man now, yes, we will self-destruct. If we continue doing things the way we're doing now, we will be on the path of self-destruction. So if you find, some people think that indigos are kind of crazy people because they're so connected to the planets, the stars, and they understand that we are connected to them. The Most High always said that I am the I am. I am the universe. So they understand that they have the power and the spirit to change things. Again, you always have to look at how man is polluting and changing this earth and not using his mind to better the earth. So if you happen to fall into that category, I know I'm one, because YouTube is not for me. I've never taken it as entertainment. I take words as what people say. I am very stubborn. I question the question. I don't take things as face value. And I could pretty much sense the facade that people put on. We all walk around with a facade, but some of us are not comfortable but constantly keeping up a facade. We want to just be ourselves. And we want to communicate with others that are in tune. So it kind of falls in with the blue pill, red pill theory, the black pill theory. On a whole, just for this earth, it would be the red pill, blue pill. Some children are born and at an early age, you could talk to them and think you're speaking to an adult. Their ideas are completely different. I have a son like that. The way he dresses is out of the norm. The way he thinks is totally different than what someone 23-year-old would think. He realizes that basically we're slaves. He doesn't believe that we were put here on earth to just work, make money, work, make money, work, make money. Money doesn't mean anything to him. Absolutely nothing. And when he speaks through the Spirit. When you have a conversation with him, his conversation is spiritual, but yet he sees what's going on this earth. Dick Gregory spoke very high. Their indigos are star seeds. So don't feel like you're a black sheep. People might call you crazy. Anything else. That's because the veil is still over their eyes. They live in the world and they're of the world. They don't know how to detach themselves from the world. It's very, very hard and very uncomfortable for them to detach from the world. So there is a point in time that you will see these adults and these children that are going to be the changers if we allow them to be. And for those that have young ones and you're listening to them talk and you're wondering, where did they get this from? Or, my child is only 5, but they're giving me a conversation of someone 10 or 15. You'll find that in autistic children. Autistic children are highly, highly intelligent. They're very focused. They are anal about things being perfect. They're not satisfied until they're satisfied. You may see them work on something or do something over and over and over again until it's perfected. And when you see an autistic child or an adult stand and stare, their mind is still working. So I've never looked at my son, who has a spectrum of autism, or any autistic child, as being nothing but those that have been given the brains that don't fit into the norm of society. You have to remember Bill Gates and Steve Jobs were both autistic. But yet, look at what they've done. Google and Apple. So if you want to know more about the star seeds, more about the indigos, their purpose here on earth, Dick Gregory did about a 2-hour interview on star seeds and on indigos. He also broke down exactly when the New World Order would be put into effect, on how so many psyops, so many things to control the public's minds. and to keep us under control. But you find more indigos and children of melon or people of melon. But again, it's on YouTube. It's under an interview done with Dick Gregory on the star seeds and on the indigo, and how the Most High and the higher intelligence gave them the knowledge and the spirit to come down and balance everything on the earth. When it was said that we control volcanoes, hurricanes, everything that's happening with the weather, it's with the spirit and it's with the mind. The mind is so powerful. It's easily manipulated. It's easy to get people to follow, which is why we had Jonesboro. We had all these different cults that people fell into and found a leader who they believed and ended up on their own killing themselves. So you have to be careful again what you allow in your spirit, what you allow in your ears, what you allow in your eyes, and what you allow in your mind. The mind is powerful. Again, we only use 1/3 of the mind. And those that are able to tap beyond that 1/3 are able to do things that we all should be able to do. But you have to detach yourself from the world. Yes, you have to be in the world. You must be aware of what's going on in the world, not in just the United States, in the world. And once you become aware and you begin to see the propaganda, what you're being fed, and what they want you to believe. Like I said, when I worked at HBO, the programming that was put on was all selected. And it was called the War Room. Now, why would you call a department that decides what was going to be played and the time and the date, the War Room? And you have to remember that every scientist in the beginning were killed by the Vatican because they were able to prove just how much we were connected with the universe and just how powerful the brain was. And they didn't want that information out to the masses. So again, be still. Be in peace. Meditate. And don't be afraid to step outside the box. Find others that are like-minded, because together you all are very, very powerful. So, for parents that are listening, there's a lot of adults that are star seeds and indigo that I know I had to go back and ask as a child, and I couldn't do anything without my twin. So her friends were my friends. And pretty much I distanced myself from them. And was always in my own little world, questioning things, questioning life, studying the universe, studying the rotation of the planets, studying astrology, looking at different maps. And if you really want to know the truth, please look at the first map that was drawn. And then find out if Africa on the first map that was drawn is Africa the way you see it now. You would be very surprised to find out that it was upside down. That the entire map of the world was turned right side up. Everything was upside down and everything was connected, which is why you have the Asiatic blacks. You have blacks in almost every European country, and they did not immigrate there. They were born there. So some of you all take your Thanksgiving time. Your books won't be found in antique stores. They'll be found in bookstores. There's a lot of information in the educational section of YouTube. And again, question the question, the question. Don't accept things as face value. There's a reason behind everything. Look at the propaganda that is put out to you versus what is going on in other countries. Just as we're speaking now, not only has Yemen been wiped out, but there's a war in Syria. After the United States sold them billions of dollars worth of artillery and planes, that again, this young prince in Saudi Arabia, and it was predicted in the Bible that a young one would be born and he would try to take over this world. And he would have the power over this world. So get your face out of YouTube. Start finding out what is going on in the world so you can make that change and shape your world.